Hello there.
I've been wanting to discuss this and make a video about this for a while, but after I saw the recent, debacle or whatever you want to call it that happened with Wonder Woman 3 and the potential that the movie was going to be made and then the movie's not going to be made and that it's going to tie into the DCEU and then it's not going to tie into the DCEU.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
I figured it was finally time for me to pull the trigger on this video and discuss a little bit about why James Gunn's DCEU is starting to piss me off and just get me a little bit frustrated as a fan. I mean, I've been a fan of the DC comic properties probably since I was a little kid. I used to watch the Justice League animated show. I grew up on it, all stuff like that. All stuff that I'm sure a lot of you guys and a lot of fans can relate to. And then when the Zack Snyder DC Universe came out, I was a little iffy on it. I thought that a lot of the direction that they were taking was bad with the darker turn they were taking with the characters and not seeming to understand the foundation and roots that made the characters who they are. Specifically with Superman and Batman and some of the decisions that Zack Snyder decided to make there. But I actually ended up liking Wonder Woman quite a bit. And especially after the Zack Snyder Justice League movie was released, I sort of took a hard turn on my thoughts on Zack Snyder's DCU and actually really, grew a liking for the Snyderverse. And when they canceled it, I was a little bit disappointed. But yeah, in this video, we're going to talk about why James Gunn is just starting to really irritate me with some of the stuff that he's doing with this new DC universe and the way that he's handling press surrounding this DC universe. So let's get into the video. If you guys enjoy my content, if you enjoy my thoughts, consider subscribing and let's get into the video.
The Atomic Fan.
Alright, so the gloves are coming off on my thoughts on Zack Snyder, or I'm sorry, not Zack Snyder, on James Gunn and his new DC universe and the direction that he's trying to take with it. Now, I'm going to try to formulate all my thoughts and make it kind of cohesive here so I'm not rambling, but I'll probably end up rambling anyways. But yeah, James Gunn has really been irritating me with the direction that he's taking this new DC universe. So the first problem that I have is that he decided to can Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill to begin with. I mean, the problem with the DCEU was never the casting choices made in the movie. Now, I understand Henry Cavill is a little older now, but he's definitely not too old to be Superman, and it's definitely a little too early to just go ahead and recast the character and pretend that the old Superman never happened, especially coming hot off of what we just saw in Black Adam. I thought that was just such a bold thing to do, and then also canning Ben Affleck as well when he's just starting to really warm up to the role and he's just starting to get some dialogue and some, direction for his character that he seemed to like with some of the stuff that he filmed in Flash and apparently with Aquaman 2 as well. So they decided to can their big two actors. Now you have Gal Gadot as well. She's also very, well received as Wonder Woman. But yeah, it was pretty much Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill that were carrying it, and then also Gal Gadot. I guess you could say that the Trinity was carrying it, but we don't really even know if Gal Gadot is going to continue as Wonder Woman or not. So yeah, them deciding to recast these characters really kind of set me off in a bad way with the DCEU. I wasn't furious about it, but I'm like, okay, I don't really feel that good about this. Let's see what they do with the next steps of the DCEU that James Gunn is rebooting. Well, then they cast a new Superman actor, and when I saw him, that also kind of pissed me off because I'm like, okay, this dude literally fucking looks like Henry Cavill. I mean, he actually looks like Henry Cavill, not in the way that Henry Cavill looks like Superman, but in the way that this guy actually looks like Henry Cavill. I mean, I thought that was kind of crazy and kind of bold too. And especially considering the way that Black Adam ended with them teasing Henry Cavill coming back. I mean, you're already getting off on a bad foot with the fans rebooting this whole DC universe and then bringing in David Cornsweet, I believe that's his name, who literally fucking looks like Henry Cavill. So that also irritated me when I saw who they cast. I'm like, okay, it's a discount Henry Cavill. And then the third big thing that's really getting under my skin is the way that he's handling press for this new DC universe. I think it's very sloppy. I think it's very unprofessional, and it's not stuff that you ever see Kevin Feige doing over at Marvel. I mean, you don't see Kevin Feige going on Twitter and debating fans and debating people and debating this and that and going back and forth and saying, oh, I never said this about the movie. I did say this. I never said that this was going to happen. I did say this. And overall, I think that him opening his mouth or his keyboard or whatever you want to call it, him putting out those tweets, is just starting to confuse the shit out of people. And it's starting to really irritate a lot of people. I mean, look at what just happened with Gal Gadot in the Wonder Woman 3 situation, where she came out and teased that Wonder Woman 3 is actually happening. And then sure enough, you come to find out from DC that Gal Gadot was making stuff up or something, or that she had the wrong information because Wonder Woman 3 is currently not in active development. Now, what do I think? I think that they probably told her that Wonder Woman 3 is going to be made, but then when she came out and said that, not really understanding the confusion that would ensue once she said it, DC came out and tried to mediate the situation and kind of tried to have her cover her tracks a little bit and backtrack on the statement. I have no doubt in my mind that James Gunn probably told her that we will be doing a Wonder Woman 3 and that it is going to be developed for James Gunn's DCEU. So all of this is just irritating me. The way that he goes on Twitter and debates with fans back and forth and has to explain so much about his DCEU. Dude, don't sit here and fucking explain shit if you are confident in the content that you have coming and the confident in the movies that are going to be put out. Tell people to wait. Tell people to wait. Stop trying to justify everything in every direction that you're taking. So yeah, that's the third thing that's really starting to irritate me, is the way that he's dealing with press surrounding this DCEU. He's throwing, fuel on the fire instead of putting it out, and I think he's actually making things worse. Now, the fifth thing that's really pissing me off with this DCEU is how they don't seem to be focusing on the big three the way that they should. I know they're going to do a Superman movie. I know they said Batman Brave and the Bold or whatever is going to come out. I think it was called Brave and the Bold. Whenever that new Batman movie that's going to come out, where they're once again going to recast Batman, is going to come out. They're going to do a Green Lantern thing, and they're going to do a TV show about the Amazons. But then you have all this random stuff like Booster Gold, and you have all these random DC characters starting to shove their way into a Superman movie. I don't know why the Authority would ever be in a Superman movie, but based off of just how it sounds, if I had to choose between the Authority, James Gunn's Superman Legacy, or Man of Steel 2 with a villain like Brainiac that's a character-focused, character-driven story, I mean, just based off how it sounds, I would pick the Man of Steel 2 for the sake of having Henry Cavill and for the sake of having a Superman Clark Kent-focused story. That does not sound like what this new Superman Legacy is, and he's come out and he's said that Superman Legacy will have Clark Kent and Lois Lane at the center of the story. But I mean, it's pretty obvious that if you have all these big DC characters in a movie, it's gonna suck some of the fucking spotlight away from Superman. So I don't know why he's also doing that with the Superman movie, introducing all these characters, introducing the Authority. So before we even get introduced to this new version of the Justice League, we are already going to have another superhero team or whatever. I don't know. Like I said, the whole thing just sounds a little weird, and James Gunn has this tendency to insert his own personalities into characters, and I think that's why he likes to use these sort of off-brand, offshoot characters so that he can remake them and remodel them into whatever he wants to be. I mean, as successful as Guardians of the Galaxy was, let's not sit here and act like Drax is anything like he was in the comics, or Star-Lord is anything like he was in the comics. I think Gamora is probably the only character who's close to anything like she was in the comics, and maybe Rocket Raccoon, but not even Groot. Groot they turned into a super cute character or whatever, which is fine. I'm fine with the way Groot is in the MCU. But in the comics, Groot was like a big scary monster, and they changed that completely for the movies. Now, they did the same thing with Suicide Squad, where they turned King Shark into a goofy, lovable character or whatever, and they turned all these characters into comedians and, lovable characters and whatever. But the point I'm trying to make here is that James Gunn loves to self-insert, maybe not self-insert, but insert his own personalities that he's come up with into pre-established characters, and he's doing it again with the DCEU and a lot of the characters that he's introducing. I mean, why are we getting anything focusing on Swamp Thing before we focus on this version of Wonder Woman this version of characters like, Martian Manhunter, who are even more mainstream than Swamp Thing. But, it's like Swamp Thing is getting a movie before like a Green Lantern movie. Now, I know the Green Lanterns are getting a TV show, but it's just stuff like that that really makes me wonder if this is the guy for the job, and how much of this is him sort of inserting his own ego into this new DC universe. Now, I know a lot of people hated the Snyderverse and the direction that it was going, and I was one of those people. I hated how dark it was. I thought Batman would never fucking kill. I thought that Superman, his personality was completely wrong, even though Henry Cavill was the perfect cast. But like I said, the problem was never the cast. They never had to recast these people. They just had to give them better writing. So I guess my fourth problem, to kind of sum that point up, is not just like the Superman movie, but more so the self-inserting, or the, rewriting of characters from the comics and turning them into something completely different in the movie. I've sort of always kind of had an issue with that, but he's written characters so well that I kind of put it aside. But now that he's in charge of the entire DC universe, this might become something that's a lot more prominent. I'll say this to give James Gunn some credit. It does seem like he has an idea of what Superman's supposed to be. It seems like he's heard the feedback of people who really hated the direction of the Snyderverse, and he's chosen to, take a step back and look at Superman's characters and the things that make him who he is. So I do, and James Gunn is very good at writing movies with a lot of heart. So I do have faith that James Gunn can write an emotional, driven Superman movie, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to juggle all these characters and turn it into something that ends up working for this DC universe. Now, I'd love to be proved wrong. I would love to sit here and go on this huge rant and all this stuff and then be proved wrong about this new DC universe. But we're going to see when this movie comes out. But the more and more I read of James Gunn, spouting his bullshit off on Twitter, just kind of starts to piss me off more and more. It's like, dude, you don't have to come onto Twitter and justify everything about your new DC universe and explain everything. And when people are talking shit about it, you can't just let them have their opinion. You have to come back and rebuttal them when you haven't even done anything to disprove them. We haven't seen any of these movies. We don't know anything about what's going to come out for this new DC universe. So yeah, to kind of sum it up, I think overall the direction that James Gunn's taking this DC universe so far has me a little bit apprehensive. I know we haven't seen a single movie from it so far, but it's the way that he's going out on Twitter and kind of justifying everything about the DC universe. It comes off as, insecure or something. It's like, just let people have their opinion and prove them wrong through the hard work of making a good movie. Comment down below what you guys think. But for this video, for this rant, that's all I got. So until the next one, be safe and stay well, guys.